You're a very optimistic person, which I appreciate. What are some of the things that are really giving you hope and optimism about the future of the big tech industry, and what you're starting to see change around the world, but here in the U.S. or international? I think there's a lot of it had been so Silicon Valley oriented for so long. I think there's starting to be a proliferation of tech across the world in new and great ways. And so maybe just talk a little about what's giving you optimism for the future of technology.
Yeah, so let me give you an example that goes back to the 1950s. So I don't know how many engineers come on your show and talk about the 1950s and the Korean Peninsula, but let's make a start here. So in the 1950s, when the Korean War was dragging on towards its armistice, the question was being raised as to, okay, what is the future going to look like? And we had a State Department official named Dean Rusk who drew a line through the 30th parallel and said, North Korea here, South Korea here. Now, historically, and this is a complicated topic, but historically, the divisions in the Korean Peninsula were east-west, where the Western Korean Peninsula was closer to China in terms of philosophy, where it was more socialist, the Western part, and the Eastern part was more Japan affiliated, more capitalist in nature. So it was somewhat of a historical problem to sort of draw the line that way. But South Korea basically said, we don't have as many resources. We have been brought out as a country in the middle of the Cold War, and we are going to invest in technology. We're going to make sure our population is well trained. We invest in factories. And it was a tough 1960s and 1970s for them. But look what South Korea has done today. In 2002, they hosted the World Cup. And Incheon Airport is sort of the pride and joy. It's an amazing airport, very tech savvy. They host some of the finest companies in the world. There are homegrown Korean companies as well as US and other Western companies. So big tech has the potential to create these cultural and societal successes. And I use South Korea as an example. I could have used Japan. I could have used any other country in the world. I'm seeing a lot of tech jobs into rural Oregon in the Midwest, where we have the Silicon Prairie. Big tech has the potential to create the resources that creates amazing products, that creates a more upskilled population, and that creates new jobs and fundamentally redefines how society actually works. Now, it also creates other challenges like housing costs go up. Like in Portland, Oregon, people blame the tech industry for driving up housing prices. So it's not all honey and chocolates, but big tech has this potential to fundamentally reshape societies. And we have the ability to look for workers, create jobs, create factories in parts of the country that haven't seen as much growth. So I'm thinking Kansas City, Missouri. I'm thinking Prineville, Oregon,
Mm-hmm.
Elko, Nevada, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Places in the country that A, have the talent, B, have the aspiration, C, have the necessity, and D, quite frankly, are unnecessarily distant from us right now. And I think big tech can do that. Remember, big tech is one of the few sectors that has been able to make these amazing pivots. I'm talking about Intel going from memory to processing power. I'm talking about Microsoft going from just on-prem to enterprise cloud-based software. I'm talking about the phone being thought of as a device to just call people, to being the biggest carrier of data. I remember when I was an intern at Sprint in 2002, the belief was landline is the way to go. And now I don't know how many people have landlines right now, but the cell phone has fundamentally become an instrument, not just for voice, but for data as well.
Mm-hmm.
Big tech can make these pivots in a way that'll make us a ton more money, create a ton more jobs, but in a way that brings the rest of society with us. I would challenge any other sector to present that kind of a scale and that kind of potential. I don't think that exists. So we have not just the responsibility, but the opportunity to do the right thing. And I've given examples from my own career. I did my undergrad in a small school in Missouri with 6,000 students in there and 10,000 people in that town. And today I work for Google, Netflix, Uber, Nike, right? It is possible. It gets better and it's possible. And I'm an optimist because every day in my life is evidence that somebody with average intelligence who speaks really fast can do amazing things.